Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to some of you, and peace out to the rest of you. Hit the share button because the message is more important than the messenger. My people, listen. In part one, I gave shots out to certain parties at the beginning. I want to give shots out to them again. And to Senor Kanga, shout out for sending me the video about the Rwandan ladies choosing on them Wyatts. I remember the video when you sent it. I said, "Oh, yeah, that's right. I saw this a while back," and this reminded me. I'm really not concerned with why. I'm not concerned with what the reasons are anymore that sisters might have. In this part two, I want to remind you of one thing and tell you of another. One thing of which I will remind you in part two was that there's this guy's own this YouTuber's channel called Only Logic, and he talks about these divestors, and he has new stuff every day, and he's not running out of material. And this tells you something. He's not running out of material. If you look at India, it has a population beyond the black population of Africa. Hell, India's population is beyond the population of Africa. That's a whole lot of bad pullout game. That's India for you. That is its population. I say that for this reason. If you were to talk about Indian women with white men, you would run the F out of videos at some point. That's the funny thing. But sisters who would tell you the same thing won't tell you exactly what the hell it means. They would tell you, if they could complain about it, to put you on the defensive. Well, how come how come Indian women with white husbands ain't complaining about being beaten up on? Well, one, they wouldn't say nothing. But number two, there probably is less abuse. I mean, white men that marry Indian women, though it is rare, probably do have fewer tales of abuse about that. They have less that they would say about it. They just, but by the same token, yeah, you know what? These white guys that you see with black women are abusive in many cases. The stories don't stop. The stories of their brutality to black women when they've married them, or when they're just dating them, or when they're just too close to them and know them and ain't nobody stopping them, are enough to where Only Logic's channel never effing stops. He doesn't run out of material. If you look at me, I can't keep up with all of that. I got to teach. And now I got to teach 2 classes. But here he is able to run this channel by covering that one topic, and he ain't stopped yet. How long has that been going on? A year and a half now? I don't even know when it got started. So I wanted to remind you, we know the channel exists, but I want you to notice that it is not running out of new videos daily. I should have picked up on that earlier. There was a time when just like many of you, there was a time when I thought, you know what, damn it, sisters are really race loyal when it comes to black men. I really thought that, because you didn't hear about them going after white dudes that much. I mean, hell, I'm a light-skinned black man that's ambiguous looking. Sisters wouldn't check for me if they had their ducks in a row. You get a sister to have her life in order and have her ducks in a row, and she wouldn't look sideways at me, as so I thought. Let them be smart. I wasn't ambitious enough. I mean, that's what it came down to. I had to wonder what the hell was wrong with me, because when I was younger, I began to notice that the flat of their chest the more interested they were in me. And unfortunately, I came up in the Gulf Coast in the 80s and 90s. So in the 90s, you had a lot of masculine looking black women at those latitudes. And I began to notice that there was this correlation. And the funny thing is, I'm a breast man. So why do they have to have manly type chest to be interested in me? I didn't even look like a woman. I looked young for my age, but I never looked like a woman. I didn't look like a girl. And it was years before I realized that on the subconscious level, to sisters and to matriarchally raised niggas, yeah, I did look like one because my hair was straight. That was all. It wasn't because of the facial hair I didn't have at a young age, because a lot of brothers just ain't that hairy anyway. It's just having straight hair. That's all. Lighter skin, straight hair were feminine traits to many of them. And I was unaware of that. I was one of these guys I've gone through years of confusion because of the deception of sisters. That deception is worse, really. That is the greater betrayal than it is to find out that they're interested in other races of men. But there's one other thing I wanted to point out, and that is as well, and I've mentioned this before, but I want to reiterate this so you can see the pattern. These sisters now that are interested in other races of men still have a hierarchy and whites at the top. That's the other problem. That's how you know it's white supremacy. It's not just that we're dusty, it's white supremacy, because to them, white is at the top. Wait, hold up. You mean to tell me that the most colonizing, oppressive, expansionist, least empathetic man on the planet is your first preference? Oh, you a special kind of stupid. You stuck on stupid. But look also at the other men. And Edward Allen Anderson pointed this to, and I'm going to point out again what it is that these men have in common. So white men are their preference. Arab men. Men from India. Men from India, they view those men as awkward, but those are their preferences, those are their type. And then it dawned on me. I worked for a man from India once. Now, he was kind of pugnacious. He was not from the north. He was just very fair-skinned. Is very fair-skinned. And his accent is not a southern accent for India. And that's because he grew up speaking Hindi, even though he's from a southern part of India. This man, and this is what cracked me up, this man would have sisters trying to get at him sometimes. I didn't think it was real until one lady showed up with her husband. And he told me later on, she discussed marriage with me. I said, what made you decline? He said, she had kids, but then when I told her that I had a kid by a white woman up north, she was like, What is it with African American women and they got these kids, and then when you tell them you got kids, they don't want you? And I was stunned because I was suspect because I didn't have kids. This was in Atlanta. But he was right. Now we know about this. He was the first person from whom I heard about this particular pattern of them having kids but don't want a man to have kids. Second time I saw a sister trying to hit on him, he wasn't going for it. He was nice, but he was keeping it about business. He wasn't going for that. He didn't have something against black women, but he wasn't going for that because she wasn't Muslim. That was his thing. And later on, it dawned on me why she was willing to hit on him like that when I was nearby. She didn't know I was black. Now, I had a better look at her than she had at me. She didn't see me very well. She could hear me on the machine. But her view of me was somewhat obstructed, whereas my view of her was, and it's a long story, but my view of her was less obstructed. So now looking back, I realized if she had known that I was a brother, she wouldn't have done that. But she didn't have a chance to take a really good look, and she didn't hear me talk either. So let's look at what it is from the white man. Okay, you already know why I take issue if that is a non-white woman's first preference. I don't really care. I don't give a rat's ass what her background is, and I don't care why, what reason she's going to give. Because that has an immoral, there's something immoral about it. I know it doesn't sound very egalitarian, but it's because they're the least egalitarian society that I take issue with that. That's why. But let's look at these other groups. Indian men, Arab men, Latino men. These are the ones that can use black women. Chinese, Korean. They can use black women and will do so. Do you hear about Filipino men using black women as jump offs? It ain't just height. Korean and Chinese men aren't known for being very tall. So what is it? You know what it is? You look at these men and you realize that what it is that these men are the ones who have, or whose people have the worst attitudes towards black folks and blackness. That's why you don't see sisters trying to get these Afro-Latino men that often. Now, they might fly to Gambia, pay somebody to dig them out. They might fly to Jamaica for that. Pay someone to dig them out. But they don't be trying to keep those men. Then they'll turn around and they will start, then they'll try to actually get an Indian man, an Arab man, a non-black Latino man to commit to them, a white man to commit to them. They're trying to chase after whichever men like them the least and see them as the least equal. That's why they're not interested in the Filipino or the Indonesian or the Malaysian. Those men are not any less interested in them than the Chinese or the Korean. If they're more interested, we wouldn't know because they don't say anything about each other. So what does it come down to? It comes down to the fact that sisters are interested in whatever men like them the least. And now I understand why it is that even in my own life, it was right when I was old enough to have girlfriends, if you will, that their interest in me dropped. Now I get it. When I was too young to be interested, they were. When I got old enough, they weren't. They want who doesn't want them. You cannot fill that hole in their soul because you're not the man to do it. And if you are a non-black man from one of these groups that doesn't really look at black folks as equals, and you were to try to validate them, eventually they might start looking at you like, what's wrong? Why would you? That's why I don't have a leg to stand on trying to argue with AC, and I'm not interested in it either. I'm heartbroken by the realization, but he's just articulating it for me. I'm not even interested in trying to argue against his point. Now I'm going to tell you why it is that I, as a happily married black man to a black woman, whom AC would not trust, and I don't expect him to, and I don't blame him. But I'm going to tell you why it is that I agree with him telling you what it is that he's telling you, and I don't hate black women. But I'll tell you why I agree. While I'm happily married to a black woman that loves me too. And that is this. "2017 was when I had my memory jarred, and I told y'all that story. My friend from West Africa was going to try to hook me up because the Moroccan ex-wife had already asked for a divorce. It was finished at that point. He didn't have anything against her, but it was finished. He was the one that introduced me to her. She requested the divorce. I was like, okay, you got it. And I didn't know what the reason was. I gave it to her. He then decided he was going to introduce me to someone else. He tried. He really did. One looked too much like my ex-wife, the American. The other one just wasn't attractive. And she had a bunch of chillins. And she was like, well, they coming with me. Wait a minute. No, the hell they not. The Saudi government's not going to issue them a visa to come and live here. They can visit you, but the Saudi government ain't going to issue them a visa to come and live with you when their dad is alive and I'm just a husband. And you know what? The educational system here is bad for them anyway. Never mind. I'm not doing that. And I straight asked him later on, which one of these women is the most nice to look at? And he said the one that didn't want me to send you her picture. Yeah, she was by far the best looking. I was like, oh, okay, I see where this is going. I'm just not good enough for a good looking sister. This is just like what it was a long time ago, years ago. And then it jarred my memory. Because the one that didn't want him to send me her pictures after she saw my pictures pretty much said to him, you know, I only want black men. Why are you playing with me? And he said, oh, he's a black man. She said, not enough. And in the dawn, then that's what jarred my memory. Jarred my memory of my colleague back in 2001 telling me in Atlanta at work when I was in the new department, saying to me pretty much, black, you ain't gonna be treated equally by sisters. You should be considering dating out the race. She was a woman, single mom, married to a black man that adopted her kids. And she had this respect for him, this deep, moving, abiding respect for this man. I don't know how. She was blunt with everybody else. She could get flipped with everybody else in a minute. I don't know what it was. But that man, she said, when he talks, I respect him. But she said to me, you don't even have to, there ain't nothing wrong with you, but you ain't going to get the same respect as what black women are giving other black men right now. We all looking for the same thing. Tall, muscular, bald-headed black men. You don't look like no wimp, but your height is normal. You ain't short. Your build is normal, but it ain't muscular like you in the gym. You ain't bald-headed and you ain't dark. By the time that my memory was jarred and I recalled all of this in 2017, I remember the date. July 31st and August 1. That was the time that my memory was being jarred. 2017. And I recorded about it on August 21, 2017. August 1, 2017. I remember that. That was when I said even pro-black men are many black men are just going to have to stop dealing with sisters because you can't keep all black men limited to sisters, even if you're pro-black, because there are a lot of black men that sisters don't want. I'm one of them. I ain't black enough. So because of that, I really thought that the sisters were just stuck on nothing but brothers and didn't want nothing but brothers. For years, I thought that. In 2019, it started to come out. That's when I got into the black manosphere and I started to find out, wait a minute, they out here preaching this black stuff, walk around smelling like patchouli oil, and letting white men use them while these pro-black brothers got a scent for them and can't even smell the panties. And a white dude can come along and lay down with them and use them and abuse them. Or toss them to the pump and dump, toss them to the side. Then she'll turn around and have his baby, and he ain't gonna stay around nowhere in the picture. And then she can't tell nobody she was screwing a white dude, so she gotta be like, well, he was really light-skinned it. And you know, though, they ain't no real men. He couldn't stay around and take care of that baby. His family's colorist. So then guys resembling me got to take the blame for stuff that actually a white dude did because he was the only one who could. I've been on the losing end of this deception by sisters. You ain't got a bunch of light-skinned or ambiguous-looking black men walking around here colorist against unambiguous-looking black women, because if we were, they would be trying to win us over. You can't approach a woman with that mindset. I won the lottery with my current wife. But now I'm going to tell y'all what's really going on. I didn't mention this but once before. And well, I remember mentioning it once before in a previous video, but I don't remember which video. But instead of going through trying to find out which one it is, I'm going to tell y'all, it's like I'm revealing a secret for the first time. She and I almost didn't marry. It's not her fault. We almost never had any conversations about marriage or anything else. That is not, again, it ain't a fault, but it has something to do with the fact that when my memory was jarred, the last day of July 2017, and I recorded about it on August the 1st, 2017, still on my channel, I think. This one right here. When I talked about that, I had just decided that I was not going to marry within my own race again. I just made a decision that in order for me to marry within my own race, she was going to have to come and get me, or we were going to have to be introduced by somebody I could trust. But I wasn't going to pursue any sisters anymore. I was done with that. That wasn't going to happen. Wouldn't do it again. Why would I make the effort? I wasn't sure about pursuing women of other backgrounds. I was like, well, it depends on what their culture's like and what the rules are. But sisters, I already know I'm not doing that. I got to be plumb stupid to do something like that. I had also decided that I wasn't going to be considering women that were partially black, but not completely, because I thought that my ex-wife from Morocco had requested a divorce because I was too pro-black. It turns out that wasn't why. She actually accepted my correction about some of her brainwashing. She knew that was the case. It was something else. I've been through why it is that she actually requested it, which I found out later, but at the time, I remember thinking, that's not, you know what's going to happen? I'm going to look and see who really likes brothers. And to me, that seemed to be the women from the Philippines, Indonesia, Malaysia, maybe Thailand, I was about to start looking in Southeast Asia myself. I was going to do that because there was no goddamn way I was going to sit up there and tolerate having to make all this effort to impress abroad that was only going to look for reasons to lose interest so that she could go run off to somebody else anyway and would brag about how difficult she had been. And then, of course, the other thing, too, was I was pretty much done with Muslims that were not either Southeast Asian or black. And I mean unambiguously and proudly black. I was pretty much done with them. Even in my social life, just hanging out and chilling, I was like, I don't trust y'all. Maybe you're going to call me a slave or call my people slaves, even if it's not me. But then it got deeper, you see. There was more to it than that. Shortly after that, started hearing about Bill Cosby. That was when my colleague, Sandra, that was when she, I'm sorry, it was Sonia, I think it was. I'm confusing her with Sandra Bland. My bad. Any whatever the names are, maybe I'm mixing them up. Whatever. She was the one that said the black men had no business dating outside the race or marrying outside the race, and Latinas ain't black, even if they tell you that they're African Latina. That don't count. We need to be with sisters. Barack Obama won because he's married to Michelle Obama. And then I find out later on she's boinking this South African Indian man that she didn't know had black blood in her. And I ain't supposed to know about it. And she later on told me that this Philadelphia Muslim sister that told her, yes, Jet Black is too light skinned, said this to her while I was standing there with no hatred. She was just answering her question. Yes, as a matter of fact, he is too light skinned for my taste. Had already herself been married to an Eastern European man. Straight up white, Caucasian. See, all this going on. And I'm going to tell y'all straight. What it came down to was that I found out that my current wife was interested. I found it out. And even then, I was not going to, I wasn't going to say anything except to continue to be nice because we'd already been neighbors and we were polite to each other. She'd done nothing wrong. I was considering not saying anything even. I was actually planning to just not say anything about her being interested. One, I was under the impression that she was too young. Really wasn't sure. I still haven't asked her age, but at that time I was under the impression that she was probably late 20s. She and I both look younger than our age. That was one thing. Two, I considered the possibility that I could become a subject of argument within her family. I thought that might happen. Thought that was going to be the case. Three, like I said, I wasn't approaching sisters She wasn't approaching me or anything of that nature. So I almost didn't wind up having any discussions with her about marriage at all. Y'all don't know this. It almost never happened. It wasn't anything she had done wrong. It wasn't anything I had done wrong. She'd been through a little bit. I'd been through a lot. Certain things happened to where it was that we wound up having the discussion. It was a very narrow set, and very unlikely set of circumstances. This ain't gonna happen to a lot of people. Most of you are not gonna have this happen to you, where you know it's okay and it's safe, and then you find out that there's not much to lose. I'm not gonna go into all the specifics because that would take too much time, because that's how unlikely my situation is to reoccur for many others. The other thing too was this, I'm going to tell y'all. And this is important to you guys. It took me to about age 40. I mean, I was pretty much, yeah, it took me about that long. Round about that age. It's too much. It's too long. For me to find a sister of our own race, one, not only did she have to not come from the same culture as me, but she had to be one of those rare people who from her own culture does not follow the bullshit and the dysfunction. Oh, don't get it twisted. Gentlemen, I'm going to tell y'all straight. Back in Somalia, I'm not really sure what you can expect, but I'm telling you that when you get into the Somali diaspora, the women are all over the spectrum, and the bad ones are out there. They get ratchet. Now, I'm not going to generalize about Somali women, good or bad. I just told you, I don't know what they're like in Somalia. I've never been. My wife ain't been but once. But I do know that in the diaspora, they get to be all kinds of different ways. But I'm going to generalize about the ones that are in the diaspora and they're outdoors a lot. They get bad. They get ratchet. My wife's play uncle, friend of mine that I worked with, whose permission I asked before I even discussed marriage with her, actually was the one to tell me, Jet, she is a good person and people know this about her. But I want you to understand that this is not something that's true because she's one of my people. This is something that's true because even though she's one of my people, she does not go along with the bullshit. And he began to tell me I was a social worker in one of the states back in the US, and I know what goes down. Oh, we have wives that have passed off other men's babies as belonging to the husband. Yeah, that we have had wives who have had boyfriends, and oops, and she ain't gonna tell the husband that that ain't his baby. Yeah, we have situations, we got scandals. And you know what the effed up thing about it was? By the time he told me this, he didn't know that I already knew this because I joined a Facebook group of Somalis so that I could talk to Muslims without talking to Arabs for a while. I was like, I don't want to talk to nobody unless they black. If it ain't about business or education, my personal life, we gonna talk about in my personal life, it's going to be some black folk. I'm only socializing with black folk for a while. It ain't hatred for nobody else. Black, or you could be from Southeast Asia, because I've learned that they don't hate us. They value us, actually. I know Filipino Muslims are the ones that look up to us the most. But that's another topic for another recording. I had shut out a bunch of other folks. Saudis would be like, let's go hang out when they would meet me because they're real nice and hospitable. And I'd be nice and hospitable back to them, but I wasn't trying to hang out. Because I didn't want to be around when they messed up and casually referred to us as slaves or some black person as slave. And I'd be like, well, does he call you a terrorist? Because he should. I didn't want that. I didn't want to hear that shit. I didn't want to hear the justifications. And I still don't. But they've gotten a lot better about this too. This is 2017 we're talking about. They've really had a lot of improvements. Plus, I don't live in as uneducated an area as I used to. But I'm saying to you all right now, for you to understand, my people, look, I understand that I found a diamond in the rough. You gentlemen are out there in the rough and the diamonds are hidden. I just got lucky. And if I had made the decision when I was young that I am never going to approach sisters because of the unequal treatment I got compared to other brothers back then, now that is being applied to all brothers in general, I would have saved plenty of time. I would not have been available and single to marry my current wife. But neither she nor I would have known about that to really have said that we missed much either. I would have been happily married far younger and for far longer. I would have found what my parents had at a younger age. More than likely, the chances would have been higher. My son is in his 20s. He now is married to a woman that he loves and loves him. This is what I wanted. He has the beginnings of what my parents now have. They had to build it, but they got it. He has the beginnings of what my wife and I now have after some years. He's got the beginning stages of this. But he has it in his 20s. You know what my son did? He did two things right. Number one, he went and married a woman that had not been around the block. Nothing but a dad and brothers around her anyway. So yes, he's her first. In case anybody tries to slip in some blame on her, there are times you could do that, you could speculate, but this just isn't one of those times. This just isn't one of those kinds of situations where you could. So she should not be blamed for this. So neither her nor my son's honor is at stake here. It's not always the case, but this, like I said, some situations are just like this. But what my son did was that he went for someone who had been surrounded by her dad and brothers all the time, and they approved of him. But then also on top of that, he did not go after sisters, and he likes them dark. He likes them dark, but he did not waste his time trying to keep it fist in the air, even when that was his preference. So now he's off to, in his 20s, what it took me until 40 to find. He saved decades. By choosing someone from the right circumstances, and that includes her nationality and her race and her culture, which are not an enemy to us. Now, she could be mistaken for someone of another background that is, but her background is not. They ain't a problem for us. A lot of us don't believe it, but I know the history. No, they're not. They have not been a problem for us. So anyway, getting back to this. That makes all the difference. He did not go for he did not go for a Chinese woman whose family could at any point start to become anti-black. He did not go for a white woman where that could be a problem. He did not go for an Arab woman that might decide she wants to be white one day. He did not go for a white adjacent Latina. He didn't do any of that. As a matter of fact, the educated folks in her family have been educated by black folks. Let me just explain it that way. Their education has actually been tied to our people for the duration of the time that some of them were in the United States. So Master Charlie can't give them that phone call and then activate the anti-Negro chip in them, but we might be able to give them the phone call and activate the anti-master colonizer chip in them. The ones of her relatives that were born in the States, she wasn't, but the ones that were born in the States would pick Wakanda over the colonizer any day. I've met them. The family chose wisely, and my son chose wisely. This is why I sit up and I say to you that when AC tells you this, it's not hatred, number one. Even if he does hate them, I know that there's sisters out there that don't mean no harm. He knows that, but you're not going to find them. That's the point I'm getting at. The ones that don't mean you any harm are being hidden from you intentionally by two sources. Number one, the chicks that do mean you harm. And number two, the male relatives of the women that don't mean you any harm. Those are the two sources that are going to hide you from the ones that will be the best ones for you if you're a good dude. Because even the male relatives, this is the problem. And this is what Manosphere Hall of Fame is going to agree with me. The male relatives of some of the best women out there are going to sit up and wait until she has and they have run off the men and her youth is gone to start actively looking for a good match for her. That's the problem that many especially black Western men make with the good women and their families. My sister Sharp, she educated. Okay, cool. She's smart. Great. She don't F around and go to clubs and get involved in mess. That's good. So why should she be with you? Well, bro, you just described the lady version of me. I'm the male version of that. And then when she starts to inch up into the 30s, and like, ain't you gonna give us some nieces and nephews and grandkids? Well, ain't nobody out here. Then they start looking around for dudes that previously they thought were too not good enough for her, and told her that we're not good enough for her. Oh, he a good dude, but he ain't good enough for you. That's how most of us are presented to these women too. So you got these two forces when she's black and she's good in there trying to mismatch you when she's young, whereas in my son's case, they didn't do that. Now, she's older than him, but that was fine because that's what we actually prefer in my family. And I didn't teach this to him. He inherited it. My dad didn't teach it to me. I inherited it. My brother did not learn this from my dad. He must have inherited it. And I can tell you now, as much as I love my wife, if my wife, she is younger. She said that she's younger than I am. And when she said it, she had to say it as a confession because by this point she knew. But I can tell you now, if my wife were to tell me to get lost, and yes, that would hurt. Or if God took her back, and I don't pray for either one of those two to happen. Believe me, I pray against either one of the two. But if that was to be the case, and I had room for somebody else, she'd probably be about a year older than me. So I'm saying that to say that in this particular case, that is not a big deal. But even then, they did not sit up here and wait until she was 32 to decide, okay, we're going to match her with this guy in his 20s. And I don't mean late 20s either. My experience versus my son's experience, because he learns from his dad and he listens. And therefore, I'll listen to him too when he has something to teach me. This shows why AC has to tell you what he has to tell you. If you want to wait until you were old and probably broken and broke, keep pursuing sisters. The good ones are kept out of reach. Their friends will do it because their bad friends will keep them out of reach because their bad friends know they're bad and want to take advantage of you, and she won't do it. She'll just make you unavailable to them. And they know what kind of women they are. And her enemies will do that because they're bad and don't want her to make you unavailable to them and their plots on you. And then her male relatives who can see her worth and love her, but don't have the wisdom and the control over their emotions to actually value the one that is a good match for her. Well, they're busy. They're just too busy. You know, Negroes, Negro brothers, Negro older cousins, and Negro dads. They too busy trying to scare dudes off. And that's one of the things about it. That's one reason I didn't want my son pursuing sisters. Number one, most of them are out there looking for the bullshit and would tell you that. His other sister's friend sat up there and said this to his sister in front of him, like he wasn't there. I'm getting tired of this boyfriend of mine. He be sending me flowers. I want to try to get with that rapper. That's what she said. Not to my daughter, but to his other sister. In front of him. And then when women aren't like that, well, then when they're not that way, let's just be honest. Nigger culture keeps good women away from anybody in the first place, from any man. And oftentimes, the good women, in order to find somebody, well, then they turn bad when it comes. There are good women whose only bad thing is their choice in men, and you're not a bad choice. It's not looking too good for you, gentlemen. AC has told you the best advice anybody could tell you. Don't pursue sisters. And I would tell you, if they come and pursue you, AC would say, don't let her. And I would say the same thing, don't let her, because we still have a fucked up culture, pardon my French, but we got a culture so fucked up that most sisters would never show interest in you and shoot their shot unless it's some kind of goddamn trap. Should they have to do it to get a man? Yes, they should. That doesn't mean you should fall for it. That's the truth of the matter. And that's why I, as a black man, happily married to a black woman, a non-FBA sister, I'm sitting up and telling you that that my experience is not telling me that he is wrong. My happiness with my wife does not say to me that he is necessarily wrong. My happiness with my wife is something that I found so late in life that I'm telling you, no, he's right. You go ahead and listen. Go ahead, because you could be waiting. What if I didn't meet her till I was 60? You could be waiting till 60 for that winning lottery ticket. Fuck waiting. Fuck patience. When it comes to that part of life, you're going to pay to be patient? I done already told you don't want to do it. That's one thing I don't let my wife get me to do, and I love her. But she's not going to get me to pay to be patient. Wait, so I got to pay a bill and then turn around and wait for the results? Pay money to wait? You out your damn mind. You will not get that out of me. And sometimes she'll forget, and I got to remind her, no. We don't pay money for something that's going to tax patience. Both of them are limited resources, money and patience. Why the hell would we spend both? What, I'm going to spend one to spend the other? No. We're not going to do that. You must not be wrapped together too tightly. So no, gentlemen, AC, that's the part I wanted to tell y'all. AC is telling you the best thing he could tell you, because for you to find a good one would take too goddamn long. Too further mucking long. My wife asked, what regrets do you have? And I told her, one regret is that I didn't become Muslim when I was younger, but I was still pretty young when I did. But the other one is that I didn't meet you. And I regret that I stayed in the States for too damn long. Those are the regrets that I have. If I could go back in time and do certain things again, I would do them, and I'd do things that would make my life better, and that there were smarter choices that I would make. But I have to also understand that they would decrease the chances that she and I met. It doesn't decrease the chance that I would have found somebody good, or that she would have. It would have decreased the chances that she and I met, that we knew each other existed. It wouldn't decrease the chance that we would have chosen each other. That would have been more likely if we still met somehow, and both of us were available. Because who she is right. But understand, though, that I probably would have been living in a different place, and probably a better place to live than where I was living when I did meet her. When it comes down to who I'm with, things worked out for the best. But when it comes down to when we met up, no, things worked out fairly wrong. In terms of the timing was too late. I'm not saying my life was ruined because of it, but what I'm saying is that for you, it's not okay for me to sit up and tell you to accept that kind of late timing. Or you can find your somebody when you're in your 40s. But in the meantime, you're going to go through a whole lot of unequal, unfair treatment, false accusations, anxiety, other people's anxiety, baggage, bills you shouldn't have to pay, stuff like that. It's not fair for me to sit up and tell you that. And if you don't do what AC said, you're going to increase your chances of that. Another thing, too, is this. Not only do you need to not pursue sisters, and I still believe that you should leave alone certain other groups because of their people's views, unless she's willing to get away from her people. I mean, I'll tell you in a heartbeat, if you're going to marry a woman, especially a northern Indian woman, if you're going to marry an Indian woman, you need to move away from her people, because the people are racist. That's why I don't tell y'all that's why I don't tell y'all get with them. I don't tell y'all to get with the Korean or the Chinese because of some of these anti-black notions they have. I ain't got nothing to say against you getting with an Indonesian or Malaysian or a Thai, as long as y'all are religiously compatible, especially somebody from the Philippines. And honestly, if a bunch of women in the Philippines would prefer a white guy over a black guy, I tell you, don't mess with them either. You ain't their first choice. They know how to treat you, but, they want somebody else. So anyway, what I'm getting at is that I'm saying this to say, before I get off track again and on a tangent, I'm saying it to say that I'm still in favor of telling brothers to leave alone certain lineages of women because of who they are, because of who their people are, the black folk. Yeah, but that don't mean I'm gonna sit up here and tell you, yeah, man, you get with that sister. No, brothers in the continent and the diaspora need to stop. And I know most brothers are going to wind up with sisters anyway. That's not anything wrong per se. Austin Holloman thinks that brothers just ain't interested in African women. I'm like, no, most brothers are interested in black women. But you know what, though? Here's the kicker. Most of us feel the same way about sisters that Austin Holloman does. We're just sick of the BS. But here's the kicker. They're not coming to get us. We get out there and we got women that will try to get at us. You know the difference between Kate and sisters? Kate will get around brothers. And she'll get around. She also can treat you well and politely. But Kate will get around brothers, and then she'll see a brother she likes, and she'll go and get that brother, even if it's for a short time. Sisters will have ridiculous ass body counts and still won't go and get the man they want. They will be difficult and still got a hell of a high body count. You'd be like, how the hell does somebody act like this towards men and still get these high body counts? And this is going on in the continent, diaspora. And that ain't all either. On top of that, you got to deal with the fact that we saw the video. And we got to deal with that fact that underneath her being with you, underneath all of that, is that she don't even prefer you. That's the thing. She might wind up with a black man, but she does not even prefer that black man. Meanwhile, a lot of white women prefer white men. Even though they'll be hardest on them, they prefer them. What is the case is that the white woman that prefers brothers will go and get a brother. The Filipina that prefers black men will go and get that black man. The Thai woman that prefers black men will go and get that black man. That's where the difference comes in. An Indonesian woman that wants a brother will go and get that brother. She'll say something, some kind of choosing signals. That's the difference. The way these videos, though, are showing how these women are on the continent and in the diaspora, we're starting to wonder, what about that black woman that prefers black men? She would not do a damn thing to get him, and we don't even know which ones really do and which ones don't. And that's why you go ahead and listen to AC. See, I met my wife, and we were even discussing marriage, and then we even got married before I knew who AC was. But truth be told, if it had not been the way that it was with me and her, I'm not going to lie to you, I would not have had to hear AC or his channel to do exactly what the hell he's saying. I'm just one of those guys that found a bolt out of the blue, just like my brother did. He married a woman that's like a bolt out of the blue. She's very rare. We've been fortunate. But by the same token, I want you, even though that is really what has happened, I still want you guys to understand that for the most part, man, when you're dealing with these women of other races, if they don't want brothers, they just leave you be. No matter if even if you shot your shot, she'd be like, well, I'm taken. If she ain't in the brother, she'd just be like, well, I'm taken, I'm spoken for, but I got a friend that kind of looks like me. She's already interested in you. Something like that. They're not trying to block per se. Sister don't want nobody to have you. That non-black woman that wants you will come and get you. A black woman that wants you won't. And then when she prefers somebody else, she'll sit up and say, I prefer. And then it won't even be somebody from a group that doesn't have a problem with us. No, it's gotta be one of these guys whose people have taught him that we're not equal. The Arab man does not want her, so she wants him. The Indian man does not want her, so she wants him. The white adjacent Latino does not want her, so she wants him. The white man, he doesn't want her, so she wants him. The black man wants her, so she can't stand us. You see where I'm going with this? The other issue is the hyperavailability of bad options that I've talked about before. And that's exactly what it is with them. So, I mean, the AC will tell you, yeah, there may be some good Keishas, but you ain't going to meet them. The bad ones out there trying to get at you. The sisters that are actually willing to come checking for you, trying to get at you, be trying to set you up for robbery or something. I mean, Leanna Lene didn't have the decency to go after Travis Hunter, and yet she's trying to take him over to rake him over the coals in divorce court. Been married a year and she's trying to leave and take half. He had to shoot his shot at her to get used, divorced, and taken for half. That's what he had to do. But when they do come and they shoot their shot at you, it's Brittany Renner shooting her shot at PJ Washington. That's where the problem comes in. I wonder what her preference really is. And that's what's out there for you. Whole bunch of Brittany Renners out there for you. You ain't even got really, hell, all you got to do is work on yourself. They'll come looking for you. But it's to take you for something. When you got smoke screens like that, hiding the good sisters behind them to make sure you don't see them, and telling the good sisters that they're too good to shoot their shot at you, you don't stand a chance. Best chance you stand is to do exactly what AC said. However hard they wish you would pursue them is how hard they need to be trying to pursue you. And even then, maybe not, but you damn sure should not be going after them. And it's sad. It's heartbreaking. It really is. But the thing that we have to understand, this is something, I mean, a lot of us have been pro-black at some point, but we're going to have to understand that just like Dave Chappelle said, chivalry's dead and women killed it, we got to understand that black love is dead and sisters killed it. And they see it as an accomplishment that they did so. I wish I had better news. But even though I didn't, I thank you for listening. As always, black heart, black mind, black out. Assalamu alaikum and black heterosexual non-select male power because they don't like it. And black patriarchy until extinction or judgment day. Thank you for flying with us again here on Jet Black Air, where the phrase jet black is also a verb. Keep jetting black with us until the wings and the wheels fall off. Gender, justice, forever.